up some of the Ask an Angel appearances into separate episodes. So I think total it's like 16 at this point episodes.
All right. So can I get in the twist taping room just when you have the YouTube ready?
Yep.
Just send it to
as
me.
soon as it's up, I'll get it.
Yeah.
I'm getting it right now. It's up.
Okay, great. So this is definitely impacting the number of people who come live, not having it up ahead of time, it seems. So we got to think that through. Might be able to get it fast. Oh,
there's a YouTube.
Okay, cool. There we go.
And the title was just changed.
We've been sending the I know Justin was sending the weekly email.
Yes.
We've been sending out. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure that didn't get lost either.
Nope.
And then has Presh been helping you every day or not? I told him to work with you for like 3 hours a day.
He's every day he's doing the PM ticker. And then he just started on the marketing checklist yesterday.
Oh, okay, good. All right. He's not communicating back. So can you explain to him that like when you get stuff done, you put it back into the production room and like how the process works?
Yes.
So I feel like I'm speaking into the void right now. So just manage him, please. Okay, we are live. And if you're listening, Presh, like please communicate. Like if you do something, say like, got this, did this. This way people know. All righty. Hey, everybody. Hey, Noties. Welcome to another episode of Ask an Angel with J. Cal and Zack Coelius. Zack, welcome back to the program.
Always a pleasure, sir. Great to see you.
Great to see you as well. How's your summer going?
Oh, just living the douchebag VC life. Good, solid couple months in Europe, which was awesome.
Oh,
and
nice. Taking advantage of that remote work lifestyle.
Let's
start there.
Best part of that job.
Let's start there, Zack. VCs and investors have always taken advantage of the remote lifestyle, calling into board meetings, taking 6 weeks in the summer to go to Italy, taking 6 weeks to go skiing.
Yeah.
But now everybody's doing that.
Yeah.
To this day. So what are you seeing on the remote work front in terms of startups, early stage, and even the more robust ones in your portfolio, and how they're dealing with either hybrid, going back to work, or staying remote? What are you seeing anecdotally?
I mean, across my portfolio, it's almost entirely fully remote. With this, like, let's get together on a regular cadence as a group, and let's have little pods that get together if and when it makes sense. But in general, remote. And it's really like what I talk to them about a lot is I'm like, look, when in the early days of the manufacturing sort of era, it was figuring out how to make basically like thousands of people work together at scale that enabled, those companies like Forward to win. And in this world, it's how do you figure out how to make somebody who's currently in Italy hanging out productive and make sure that they're not slacking off? How do you manage your people at scale? How do you manage morale? How do you manage information flows? How do you do that correctly? And there's like a bunch of really cool companies out there. GitLab does some really interesting stuff about how to operate a remote. And they've been doing that for years, that have really kind of perfected the best in class around this. And I think every company in the world now has to figure out how to do that or they're going to lose.
Yeah. It turns out information workers, the best ones, have now, they're essentially, I don't want to say spoiled, but they've adapted to remote work. For some of them, it's a non-starter. They would leave a job if they were forced to come back. As we saw with Apple, forced some people to come back. Some people said, yeah, not for me. I'm going to go find another gig. So if you want to keep your people, knowledge workers, I think you're going to have to meet them where they are. Now let's unpack one thing. How do you make sure people are actually productive? Because, it's one thing to have 10 employees and team members. You can just talk to each one every day. You can see them in Slack, but how does that scale? And what are the challenges people are finding in terms of people slacking off? Because we all know anecdotally, we talk to our friends, and there's always one friend at your circle who's like, yeah, I'm putting in 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day. Everybody kind of laughs about it. And who knows, maybe they're like the most effective sales executive in the world and they can book 2 sales in 3 hours a day and go skiing or, mountain bike, whatever their bag is. And maybe other salespeople work 8 hours a day to close 2 sales. So as managers, do we actually have to care that that person is not doing 4 when maybe they could? How do you think about that? Or how are your founders thinking about that as well?
I mean, I've always thought that there's just such a performative aspect to going into the office. It never made any sense. Like, it's like everyone has to be together and everybody has to be able to see everyone else theoretically working. And like, it was just dumb. And, it was great for lazy management, but at the end of the day, like management is always been the same, which is like you need to track the performance of your employees against their objectives. You need to engage with them and help them when they're not doing as well, and you need to reward them when they're doing great. And that doesn't really change whether it's remote or in person. It's just, it was lazy and easy to look over and say, oh, they're at their desk, that means they're doing their job. Like, whereas now you can't do that. But like when they were at their desk, we know they weren't doing their job on a regular basis. And so like a good manager would be able to ensure they were getting their job done, and crappy manager would be lazy about it. So I think this just is going to reward great management, and it's going to punish those who were just kind of like clocking it in, letting their employees just sit at their desks. So I think it's good, because startups are all about that, right? Like that's
management. It's all about great management, and this is really challenging for some managers. I agree. Even myself, I've had to look in the mirror deeply and say, am I giving clear enough instructions to people what success looks like? Yeah. And am I myself time managing myself, my to-do list, et cetera? So I think all managers have to reflect, and all founders have to reflect and say, okay, how do we manage our people? Because you're right. The easy hack was, okay, it's 9:30, it's 10. How many people are here? Okay, it's 6, 7 p.m. How many people are still here? I did a good job. When in fact, there are other ways to look at good jobs, which is setting, what are the key results we need to see here in this business, right? Yeah. What's our cadence for our product? When are our product releases happening? And then what I've started doing is everybody sharing their calendar. I share my calendar with my management team. They know, like, they're calling me if I'm not on a call. They know my calendar as the founder CEO. Now, if everybody shares their calendar, then we can actually see what people are doing. And I think time blocking is becoming, the thing I've added to all my companies. And if you're not time blocking as an individual, you're probably not optimizing yourself. And so put on your calendar, like, hey, this hour is when I'm going to, clear out my inbox. Mm-hmm. This hour is when I'm going to do my calls with my direct reports, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, and I'm not saying fill up your calendar, Zach, for the sake of theater or performance, right? We're back to performative. Yeah. So you don't want a performative calendar. You want an effective calendar, something that is saying, you know what? These are the important things. What are the 1, 2, 3 important things I need to get done today? And then reflecting that to the rest of the team and making sure your calendar is in sync with the goals. And you're always going to have a little bit of leakage. You're going to have some people who abuse the system, and you're going to have some people who do a great job. But really, I mean, what does this mean in terms of the operations of startups and the scaling of them, I guess, is my next question for you. Because there are some people who believe you're going to build a better product when 5 or 6 people are in a room together. What do you think of that counter argument? 5 or 6 people in a room. If you have a direct competitor, Slootman from Snowflake, who's got a boiler room going and 5 or 6 product people in a room grinding it out. What if you're up against a maniac like that? Does this still apply?
I think you always have to start with first principles in this, which is the first step is recruitment. Like, if you can't recruit great people, like anyone who says, hey, inferior people in a room are going to beat great people remote, I'm going to laugh at them. Like, like great people are always the most important thing you can do. And so you go out and you find the best people you can find. And if you can put all those people in a room because they're all nearby each other, or they want to be in a room together because they all believe that that's the right way to work together, great. I do believe that's more powerful if they're all centered in a similar location. They don't have long commutes. They don't have family lives that require them to basically work remote because they have to take care of other issues. Great. But I don't think that's true anymore. I think that people who argue that, we can get the best people in the world to all work in the same city is, I think it's a hypnosis that of delusion. And it's great. I love that they want to go argue that on Twitter, because people, especially people who are sort of retrograde conservatives, love to be like, oh yeah, we're going to stay the way it always was. They always do that reflexively. Yeah. So it's normal for them to do it in this case as well. But if I was going to build the best X company in the world, 99% of the time, the best people are scattered all over the world. And I want those people rather than trying to fit it. Yeah.
And this is a great point as well. If you're trying to fill a sales position, waiting for somebody who lives in Austin or Miami or, San Jose to show up, or to move. And now you're talking about 3, 6, 9 months.
Yeah.
Hiring the next best available person globally, now you're looking at 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And so if speed is the driver of, performance for companies, Well, especially for startups, that speed could be all the difference in the world. If you can get 3 sales executives online, in the next 60 days versus somebody else is going to take a year, I think we know who's going to win that battle. Here is a chart. I'm not sure who Castle is, but they're tracking, office occupancy. And just showing, if you look at the 100% pre-pandemic, it's slowly coming back, and we'll hit 50%.
I think they're the remote access company. They have the technology that facilitates like keying in the doors. So they have like the real data at scale.
Got it. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
I think directionally it makes sense. And, there are going to be exceptions here. If you're building, rocket ships or cars, or you work on the iPad team and you're doing physical design, of course you got to be in the same room. If you're managing the server farms and you have to rack and stack stuff, of course you got to be in the data center some amount of time, or somebody does. So, but this is also great this really does advantage startups, the early stage ones, because they've now eliminated something from their to-do list, which was find an office space, get coffee, get somebody to clean the office space, get insurance for the office space, deal with parking, deal with people, having an office manager. All those costs were, for an early stage startup, even if they went the WeWork route, they were spending just $6,000 a month or something. You're still talking about $100,000. So you could swap that out and get a developer, right? You can get another sales executive.
Yeah. I have a company that's like crushing it right now. They're called Upflex, and they've aggregated all the co-working spaces in the world, WeWork plus 5,000 other ones, and literally like on demand, you get access on a daily basis to any co-working space in whatever city you're in. And so enterprises will license that for their employees. And so they're like, oh, we've got 10 people in Milwaukee who all work from home, but they want to get together this week and go into a space for the week and, push button and it's all done, manage all the security and all the compliance and all the other shit that happens. And what's interesting is Upflex. You can do it as an individual. You can get access for yourself, or like I travel a lot, so it's great. I can push a button, get a like world-class co-working space in any city of the world almost.
Is it subscription or it's just on demand? Like it's like
either
Hotel
one.
Tonight.
So you can do on demand, but mostly they're really crushing it selling into these big enterprises, because what the enterprises want is they're like, okay, I want to put 10 people in a room, but I can't have them from a security perspective going and working in a random Starbucks. And I want to have visibility into that utilization. And what's cool is that they're now getting all this really powerful data, because they're seeing where people are coming together and how they're interacting and like all over the world. And it's like, it's so fun to watch that, because it really, you're seeing this change in working behaviors, which is still very young. Like even in the last, call it 6 to 9 months, you've seen really interesting developments in the way people are coming together as groups and utilizing space together. And I think we're at the very early innings of this. Like the remote work trend is one of the biggest, most powerful, most interesting trends we will probably see in our lifetimes. Like it's just so cool.
Yeah, it does seem that the management teams, now that people, I think, I don't want to trigger anybody here, but people basically are not talking about COVID. 90+% of people are not scared of COVID anymore, have opted to not wear masks. So if you're part of the 5%, Taylor Lorenz, I'm sorry, other people who, there's a number of people on social media who want to keep this alive, but it's over for everybody else.
Look, I think people who have autoimmune disorders and who have significant chronic disease, like I think they have a legitimate reason to be really unhappy about what's happening. It's just, unfortunately, they represent a small percentage of the population, and their claim is not strong enough to get us all to change our behaviors. It's just not going to work. Like, good luck to them, but it's not going to work.
I think that's the pragmatic, fair way to explain this, which is really sorry if you have this,
it's terrible.
It's terrible. But there are other people who've had this all along who can't get a cold in the winter, and therefore they don't go on the subway in the winter or any other place they could catch a cold, right? They have to be vigilant. And I think we normalize masks, actually. So if I see somebody in a mask, I don't feel bad for them or something.
Good, yeah.
If you want to wear a mask on a plane going forward because you don't want to get sick because you got your kids' theater rehearsal this weekend, sure, why not? I mean, I might actually consider wearing masks on long over, haul trips or something like that, just for an extra layer of protection of getting sick or something.
I'm surprised that we haven't seen really good positive airflow masks becoming more normalized. Like when I used to remodel old houses when I was a kid. And so we would have these for working with asbestos or working with really nasty stuff. We'd have these masks that would literally blow filtered air that would go through this really high-powered HEPA filter, blow filtered air in, and then was really you never really had to worry about what you were breathing because it was always going through that giant filter. I'm surprised we don't see that more normalized. Kind of like was it Bane in the Spider-Man movies? Whoever's wearing that,
yes, the Batman.
Yeah.
Zack,
why not? Right?
Suffering in your portfolio will be legendary. I love Bane. He's one of my favorite guys. I would love to go for sushi with Bane or something. Oh, the omakase.
That'd be fun. That'd be down.
It'd be great. So other aspects of this that are working, even that work particularly well, seem to be professional development. Using that as a reason to get together. I have started doing this at my team. So in June, we got together, or May, we got together. We did professional development for our investment team. I'm going to do it for Inside next. Just getting some people together and saying, hey, let's spend a half day talking about why we do what we do, the best practices, but writing stuff down. And the tools are the next piece. So I think that's one of the things I'm realizing is the people who shine in remote work are the ones who can maintain and write best practices and share them with the rest of the team and train the rest of the team. This to me is a person who was underappreciated in, office culture, but now is becoming a critical piece. If you can write in your Coda, your Notion, whatever your jam is, in terms of your internal wiki, if you can write the training document, the best practices document, this is how we do what we do. Here's the FAQ, all that good stuff. When you write that stuff down and you move to this write first culture, then when new people join and they're wondering how do we do this? You just send them the link and they read it and you say, hey, post a comment if you got a question, and here's the history of the page. What else are you seeing in terms of people who might have been people or practices that might have been underappreciated in the real world, and in person, that now remote is rewarding?
So one of the companies that I work with is called Twine, and they just launched on Zoom. And what they do is they facilitate really fast networking sessions across a team. So you can take 100 people, load them into Twine, and they basically enable really quick breakout rooms, high quality breakout rooms between individuals, and a bunch of metrics. And the best sort of networkers in the old days were the people that got together and got coffee together, and they were constantly reaching out to people in their office and outside their office to figure out how to get together with them on a regular basis, kind of like the VC job. And now I think with tools like Twine, I think you can have these sort of ways to kind of constantly get people to remember that they have these coworkers and give them a little bit of time together and give them the ability to engage with each other. And I think that's going to be the sort of the best networkers of the next generation are going to be the people who figure out how to do that really well.
So it basically, I'm looking at the website here for twine.nyc. If you want to go check it out yourself. It's basically trying to recreate the water cooler moments. So they, and I've seen a bunch of little integrations and, apps in the Slack directory for this, but they're using Slack as well for this. Which is, hey, we're going to figure out how to randomly put people together. Hey, what's your favorite ice cream? Or tell me about, your hobbies kind of thing. And that builds fabric. And hopefully that fabric, then when you're working together as a team, will keep you more in sync. This is why VCs would do all this kumbaya nonsense. And, if you wanted to work at a VC firm, I remember I don't know, Tony Conrad or these, was it Tony? The True Ventures guys would go on these long walks with their founders and stuff like that. And, everybody's got to go for a walk, they got to go for a hike, whatever it is. And it's just okay, a little too much kumbaya for me, but it is nice to know, people got kids, what they do. And this kind of stuff seems, really well designed. And for $5 a user per month, $60 a year, if you have 10 employees and you spent $600 on this, who cares? That's what you would spend on one dinner. So it's one of the things I love about SaaS software. Let me ask you a question about the downturn. Zack. We got a downturn right now.
Ripping.
Many different angles we could take here. The first one I want to take with you is, do you think we're going to see people canceling and reviewing their SaaS bills and saying, okay, I'm subscribed to 12 SaaS pieces of SaaS software. Maybe I cut these 4 and I make it work with these 8.
Yeah.
Maybe I work with the bundle. I go to the Microsoft bundle where I don't have to pay for Slack. I get Teams built in. Maybe, I use Notion or Coda and I get rid of Google Docs or whatever I'm paying for. Google Docs is pretty cheap, but people are going to start looking at, there's OKR software. You can do your OKRs in Notion or Coda, or you could just use, I have one very large company and they were going to use one of the OKR softwares. And they're like, it's really expensive for the number of employees we have. I'm using a Google Sheet. I'm like, is that sustainable? They're like, feels like it. So I was like, okay, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on on SaaS software? Will we see some retreat in SaaS spending?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a portfolio company called Vendor, which helps manage SaaS subscriptions. And the data is pretty clear on this one. Like people are very quickly like, well, like at the end of the day, like I think people were spending like drunken sailors for the last 5 years because raising more money was so trivial. And one of the places that money got spent was in software. And you had it across the org, you'd have people signing up for all sorts of different random software that they weren't tracking and they weren't managing and it wasn't really organized. And, the old IT guardians of this spend kind of were put to the wayside, which is good because they were kind of in the way for a long time. But now I think there's a re-rationalization of that. Like, let's go back, let's look at where we are. Let's look at what's happening and let's manage this spend out the door.
Vendor is vendr.com.
Yeah, VENDR.
Basically looking at how they do it, if you've got under $1 million in SaaS spend, they charge you 36,000, which would be almost 4%. If you have 1 to 5 million, they charge you 80. And if you have 5 million plus, they charge you 120. But they're looking at everything you're spending, and then they're going to give you advice to manage that.
They'll save you that on day one. Like literally, like it doesn't matter. I imagine, I wonder, they should have this case study, but I imagine there's probably never been a customer who doesn't save more than they spend with Vendor. Like, because, well, one thing that's really cool is they can give you best in class pricing. So they can go in to all of your vendors and say, oh, guess what? We know that you charge this to all these other customers that look just like this company. Guess what? You have to pay them that now too. And so best in class pricing in and of itself, really, it brings the leverage away from basically the vendor and brings it back to the customers. They get to aggregate. And I think that's just so powerful.
All right.
And there's a bunch of different ways that to manage that. Save a lot of money.
Let's take the next angle. And for the people who are in the YouTube room, youtube.com/thisweekend, we're going to take your questions next. So get a couple of good questions in for Zack. Hard ones.
Stump us.
Yeah. And just give us a thumbs up. We got 150 of you watching, 31 thumbs up. Yesterday, we gave away 2 of the This Week in Startups heated Ember Mugs. If we get to 100 thumbs up, we'll send you one. And we'll send one to you, Zack, too. So you can keep your coffee warm. It really is a cool product. It looks really sharp with the logo.
Are you an investor?
I'm not, but it's like my favorite. It's my favorite gadget of the last year, these Ember Mugs.
You must really love it because you're to hawk something that you don't have a little bit of a taste of.
I know, people are
like,
surprised.
That's really a sign of love.
The good news is we have swag.com as a sponsor and they make them. So swag.com/twist.
Right.
And you can go
swag.com for your
sweet.
Company. There we go.
But we'll figure out a way to get paid. At some point, Ember
they should become a sponsor.
They should become a sponsor of the show. I mean, listen, we sell out the show, every year, so I'm not too worried about it.
Like an extra special sponsor, one who pays you even more. And
let's get these questions going from the audience. I want to ask you another question about the down market now that we're warmed up.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been talking about, hey, take the medicine for 6 months. We've been advising folks, you got to have more runway. Deals are going to occur at a lower valuation. And so first, our founders, if you had 10 founders, how many of your 10 founders have actually taken the medicine and reduced costs and been thoughtful about runway? Out of 10, on average, how many have done a great job of accepting the reality and making the changes they need to make? And then how many, fall into the other bucket of not making enough change and maybe sticking their head in the sand?
Yeah. I think the vast majority, the only companies that are sticking their heads in the sand are the ones that raise giant rounds at the end of.
They can afford to.
They've got more runway, and they're, I think there was a bit of a head fake during COVID. Like when COVID hit, a lot of us, me especially, was like, hey guys, get ready. This could be really bad. Be prepared. And by the way, this is a great time to lay off your underperformers and to really bring things back in line, because like raising money could get very difficult for the next couple of years.
Yep.
And then obviously the Fed was like, yoink, here you go, here's more money, go for it.
And here's a ton of stimulus, and everybody's going to be more effective because you can't go out. Yeah, it was a huge head fake. Productivity and sales went up.
Yeah. And so some of my companies did lay off during that period, and they were fast and they were aggressive and they regretted it. Wow. And so, yeah, of course, right? Like, I think in retrospect,
they could have kept those people on.
Yeah.
Because the growth was there. But now this could be the opposite situation.
There's no question, because who's going to save us here? Like at the end of the day, when you print trillions of dollars and you hand them out for free out of helicopters, I mean, PPP loans and like all that shit, like it will boost the economy. That's how that works. But that is not going to happen here. And at the end of the day, like in a best case scenario, inflation comes back aggressively, which I doubt. And things kind of normalize again, but we aren't back to the boom times that we were in when money was given away for free. And so I think all these companies were operating under a free money environment, and that's gone. And you just have to, they're going to have to change. And
got it. So the majority, 7, 8 out of 10, I would say, have taken the advice and taken the medicine. Then maybe people who can afford not to haven't.
I think the majority of the companies are raising flat rounds to make sure they extend their runway. They're lowering their costs, and they're preparing for a multi-year slowdown in venture.
Have you seen an uptick in people saying we're going to go into an M&A process, we're going to start the wind down process?
I have not. My companies are not at that stage on average. We don't really have any that are really in trouble at this point. They're they're all well positioned to raise more capital. But
that's because why is that unique to your portfolio? In your selection,
I don't know if it's unique to my portfolio. I'm a relatively conservative investor in that, like, I don't swing for the crazy, like, let's bet it all on black and hope we get there. I'm much more on like, I get involved when there's real revenue, real runway, real products, a real business. And so you can dial your growth or your survivability relatively easily in that sort of environment. Like my portfolio generates almost 700 million in annual revenue now. So there's like real meat on those bones. And so like, it's relatively easy for my companies to say, okay, let's dial it back.
Whereas, as an angel investor, as an early stage investor,
yeah,
if you invest in companies that have products in market with some revenue, they are much closer to default alive, as Paul Graham would say. And if you are super risk taking, or you're running an accelerator where they're pre-product market, pre-product launch, pre-customers, pre-revenue, okay, you're going to have a lot more of these slowdowns, these shutdowns.
Like for instance, like one example that we saw a lot of over the last couple of years is you had negative gross margin companies. So companies that were like, the 15-minute delivery companies, they would literally bring a product to your door and it would cost them more money than they would make. And the argument that a lot of people were making was, at scale, this gets solved, at which point these become very profitable companies. But until then, we're going to lose a shit ton of money. And I always looked at that and I was like, fuck that. There's so many more ways to invest in companies that are making money on day one. And they make money on each product they sell. Why would I go play in that world where at the point that the macro turns, I'm dead? Now, some people made a lot of money doing that. Not my jam.
It's a risky bet to make, because like greater fool theory in crypto or other places, or Pokemon cards, there has to be somebody who values this asset that doesn't generate revenue or profits more than you. And this is why all the companies, whether it's DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, et cetera, have said, Airbnb, okay, we're going to move to the profitability phase here. And, a lot of those folks, Joker, Getter, GoPuff, great services, really interesting. Sure. It turns out, like, if your bet was, we lose money when we do one, when the person takes one bag of groceries out to delivery. We break even when they have 2 per ride. And when they do the third, and they can carry 3 bags when they take their e-bike out to delivery, then we make money. It's like, well, how often is that third scenario going to happen?
Yeah.
And that's the efficiency that some people deluded themselves into. And then when you're talking about SaaS software or some of the companies in your portfolio you mentioned, they make money on the first transaction, right?
Yeah.
They make money easily on the first transaction. Now, does that mean Uber or Lyft should get rid of Uber Pool or Lyft Line as a way to, increase the number of drivers on the road and break even on that? Probably not. Like, I think those things could exist to just keep the network effects going, and you could make money on X and food and on black cars, but you really got to think this through and be thoughtful about it, I think. And so it's very important for angels to understand Zack's betting strategy. It's one I do with the syndicate.com. I don't like syndicating companies that do not have products in market and do not have revenue, because I kind of train young angels, don't try to invest in pre-product market fit companies or pre-launch companies when you're starting out, because it's going to be hard for you to identify what signal do you use, how charismatic the founder is. Like, it's pretty hard to guess unless you've worked with the founder before and they have a track record. Now that you can make a bet on.
That's easy.
But that's easy. But the most of them don't. So, unless you have a vehicle like an accelerator like I have, or Founder University now, why are you making that bet? Because you need to make that bet at what, like $2 million valuation, $3 million valuation. You can't make those pre-product market bets at 10 million, can you?
Well, you can. I mean, when I bet Ahmad and Mercury, that was, literally Ahmad's like, I'm going to start a bank. And I was like, God, I don't know anything about banks. Like, but you're Ahmad, I love you. You're a machine.
Oh, so you based it on a founder knowledge.
Oh yeah. That was like, so I'm same thing with,
that's a caveat.
Yeah. If I've known a founder for a long time, I will bet on them purely based on who they are. But I have to have seen them at work, like M Particle, the Mike Katz runs M Particle, one of the best entrepreneurs I've ever worked with. Like, he's the kind of guy where, like, he goes starts a company, I'm like, here you go, here's free money. Or Jack Chow started Pace, and he was like, literally, this is a good example. So we were on a Clubhouse room back when Clubhouse was
a thing,
and it was me and Jack Chow and a bunch of young entrepreneurs listening to us talk about raising money, and I was like, hey, if Jack Chow ever raises money, I will give him money in a heartbeat, because he was, the head of product at a firm and Pinterest, and like, he's just OG. And he literally calls me the next day. He's like, hey, are you serious about that? I was like, yes, I'm in for $1 million. I don't care what you do. Done. Here's the money. And then, but I was like, guess what? I know you're going to call me back in a day and be like, so then of course, like a day later, he calls me back. He's like, well, Max Levchin wants his piece, and Brienne wants her piece, and Tish wants his piece. And I'm like, I knew that was going to happen. And then literally like a month later, he calls up. He's like, well, we're doing another round. Sequoia is going to lead, but there's no room for anybody else. I'm like, oh, fuck. Like so painful. I wish the best entrepreneurs would just let me take all the money and not let anyone else in. But that's just, unfortunately, not how it works.
This is one of the hard things about the business we're in is, some of the elite founders can dictate terms.
Yeah.
And they have existing relationships. So the chances of Ev Williams, you getting in on the next Ev Williams or, Jack Dorsey startup are zero.
Yeah.
Because they're going to put their own money in first. Then when they raise a Series A at 100, they're going to go to a small list of trusted folks who they want on their board, and they probably don't want to announce the round. They probably don't want to circulate it. So it's hard, right? And so you got to, take a decade to get on those lists. Let's take some, I will say in my portfolio, I've had about a half dozen companies, and we're talking about over 300 companies now, who were, let's say, from the accelerator zone, didn't clear market or cleared market with modest raises in a seed round, never got product market fit, but they were able to exist on the bridge round every 6 to 9 months. And I think the perpetual bridge, hey, we're literally going to put a section of the bridge out every 6 to 9 months for you. That's gone.
That's gone. That's
unless you've got some, benefactor who really has an affinity for you. I would assume that the never-ending bridges are gone. You get one bridge maybe from your existing investors, and it's going to be modest. So plan accordingly, founders.
I'm seeing that right now. We have a number of companies who are raising what we're going to be very healthy bridges, like tons of runway, like great. And the demand from existing investors and new investors is like 60, 70, 80% down. So like they'll raise enough money to stay alive, but they're going to have to like, basically they can't be back in the go, let's throw money at random stuff days. They're going to have to cut costs, and they're going to have to be more careful about how they grow, because free money is gone.
The free money is gone. And I think people's betting strategy has changed. So you and I like to play the cards once in a while. By the way, I want to start another poker game. Like maybe you and I should just start one, because I have a loft. I got the poker table, I got the dealer. So in the city, we should get like a little, maybe, are you playing PLO now or no?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Maybe we get like a little low stakes PLO game for the fun of it, just to break people's brains a little bit.
Easy
peasy. So one of the things I noticed was one of the betting strategies, we were all watching Sequoia or Founders Fund plow money into their winners. So people said, oh, you own 5%, try to get to 10, you own 10, get to 15, you own 15, maybe you can get to 20 or 25. You can do some crazy old school venture bet, like Tom Perkins did in the old days, or whatever Sequoia partner did in the 80s to get to, 30% ownership in a company, right? They used to get to 40% ownership in a company sometimes. That betting strategy has now been removed from the market based on what you're saying. The idea that you can go to your existing investor and like, oh, you don't need to go to market. Let's do an internal round. The WhatsApp strategy that worked so well for Sequoia, Don Valentine's strategy with Cisco and, Atari and other places where they just build huge positions. I think that's off the table now.
I don't know about fully off the table.
Okay.
I'm actively doing that now. So
under what circumstance do you do it?
Well, when the company's clearly winning, when they're well established, and I just want to own more and more and more of that.
What would that look like in terms of revenue growth year over year or performance?
It depends on the stage. But
a SaaS company, a consumer company, a marketplace company. What would it look like in that Series A?
Early stage, 3+X growth gets everybody super excited. If you're growing over 3X a year, people are going to get really fired up. But for me, mostly it has less to do with growth rates in the later stages and more to do with market position relative to competitors. So for instance, like one of my companies is very well established in sort of SMB smaller space, and they've got 1.6 million developers use their product, and they're just like, they own that. Their docs are the best, and their tools are the best, and their pricing is the best. And like, if you're a small developer, you use this product, it's like game over. And there's a big company that owns the enterprise class, and that for me is a no-brainer. Like, I love that business, and I want to own as much of that as I can get. But it really comes down to trying to figure out who your winners are and being thoughtful. Whereas you're right, a couple of years ago, every company was a winner because they would all get marked up and made us look all so brilliant. Like, because everything got marked up. We were like,
well, if the valuation goes up, people were taking that as a proxy that the business was doing well.
Yeah.
And now we find out that some people just had very large chip stacks. They needed to put money to work, and maybe they weren't being as thoughtful as you and I are. Where you're saying, hey, is this 3X? We know everybody's coming to the table. My new move is, okay, I know everybody comes to the table for the 3X.
Yeah.
Show me the 2X that's, got the inconsistent performance, but still trending in the right direction, but needs a little more gunpowder to kind of win the war. So they're a little underutilized. They're missing some key people, but I kind of like we're trending towards figuring it out, but we have a lot to figure out. That's when I like to come in and slide in my extra million.
Yeah.
It's because then you're taking a little more risk, but not too crazy. You got a lot of outs.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with that scenario.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about first-time fund managers in a moment. I want to take a question from the audience first, Nick. So can you throw up a question for us, or tell us which question you want to do?
You want a live question or a question from submitted on Twitter last night?
I'll take either. We should just go with the best questions. I think that's always the best. But since we have the live audience here, maybe we'll go best question live, something like that. Because we don't have to use.
Let's start with the best question from Twitter first, because there's a good one.
And everybody on youtube.com/thisweekin, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so that you know when we go live. We got 50 thumbs up. Let's get to 100 so I can give you one of these mugs. 208 people watching live. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. And tell us in the chat if you are a founder, an investor, or just a fan of technology. So tell us what's your station and status in life. You're going to start a company, you're running a company. Tell us where you're at.
Jason, hit Command F in your Notion doc and just type in MORDI.
Okay.
You see that question there?
MORDI. All right, here we go. So let's pull up our first question. Morty asks, how do you think about competition? Big incumbents and other startups competing in the same market or solving the same problem at the early stages of a company? Okay, great question. We do get this one a lot. How do you, Zack, counsel startups that are going into a competitive market? And can you think of one off the top of your head that's going into a competitive market?
So I generally don't like competitive markets, because when I think about it, I look back at sort of the competitive markets that, like in ad tech, when I was an entrepreneur, you really have to, as an investor, you have to be one of the smartest people in the room. It's like when you go to the YC demo day and you look across the room and there's 1,000 investors and you watch a pitch and you're like, am I the smartest person in the room about this? So it's a autonomous car. No. Is it a new SaaS software for building whatever? No. And when I'm the smartest person in the room about that, so it's an ad tech company, and some idiot from Abu Dhabi marks it up 10x. I'm like, good luck with
some
that.
Dentist is like, you get 5. I mean, that was when I knew, like, the YC demo day was, they really stacked that audience, because I was like, what do you do? It's like, somebody was really young. They're like, yeah, my dad's a dentist, and I'm going to be an angel investor. And I read your book. I was like, oh, that's awesome. So your dad's giving you money to invest. He's like, yeah. And I was like, great,
good luck
awesome.
with that.
I'm like, well, I mean, it's going to be hard for the first 10 investments, and maybe they figure it out over time. So competition, if you're going into a space that's already been won and you're trying to win and compete against Google search, if you're trying to compete against Google's ad network, YouTube's ad network, Facebook's ad network, it's going to be you're going to need to have a significantly better product. And then one has to ask, with 10,000 engineers working on whatever product it is at that company, is there a chance that you magically figured out something on the roadmap? It is possible. Google did beat 11 previous search engines. It's just not probable. Is that, I think, what we're talking about here?
I think it all comes down to differentiation. Like, so if you were to take the 11 search engines that Google was competing against, they are search engines, yes, but like at the core, search is a delivery of a product, and the question is how did they go about delivering that product, and what did they use to deliver that? So they all kind of played in a relatively similar sort of technology vector, and Google was saying, we're going to do something totally different that will result in a better outcome if we can get it to scale. And it was very early on, like when you looked at Google's technology, it was slow and janky, but it worked better. And so I think
multiple times better, 2 or 3 times better.
Way better. Yeah, way better. So I think that argument actually works if you're going to go into a competitive space. It's like, we are doing something fundamentally different at some part of the stack that leads to a 10x better outcome for the actual end customer. Then like we maybe can have a conversation about why that might work. But like, if you're like, oh, well, we're just smarter than them, or we work harder than them, or we're like, anything that sounds any bit incremental, I'm just like, I'm not smart enough.
Incrementalism is not going to change consumer behavior or business behavior. People are creatures of habit. If you love your BMW, you're just going to keep buying BMWs.
Yeah.
Now, if a Tesla comes along and BMW doesn't have self-driving and autopilot, it doesn't have a battery, and you feel the absolute, delight of driving a Tesla, you might change, but you're not changing for an Audi. The BMW person's not going to an Audi. The Audi's not going to a BMW because they're incrementally better. So that is the issue, I think, Morty. It's a great question. And there are vectors that you can go at things. The Slack was not the first group chat app. Plenty of other, HipChat existed, IRC existed. People were using all kinds of solutions for that. I think Slack just made one that had a great user interface, was much simpler, and had great APIs. So if you look at why they won, it's probably those reasons. If you look at Notion and Coda, wiki software existed, but if you compare Coda and Notion to and actually at Google had like some sort of wiki thing. What was it called? Sites or projects or something. They had some, wiki style knowledge base, and there were tons of knowledge based companies. In fact, Notion and Coda made it so beautiful that people adopted them. So I think user interface can be the thing that makes you win. Sometimes simplifying a product, it's pretty incredible. But great question. The other thing is, whatever the attack vector is, it could be verticals. Somebody creates something for a specific group of people that want something different. That could work as well. So,
we saw that with HelloSign, where they were broadly useful for digital signatures, and DocuSign was like focused on the enterprise and really focused on all the enterprise needs. And but there was a number of really good startups that said, okay, let's go focus in on real estate, and let's go focus in on a very particular use case and build all the technology around what those people need in that vertical. And they did astonishingly well. And so it really, differentiation is everything. Like if you can't really cleanly argue why you're really, really different in some vector, you're not going to make it.
All right. Give us a live question, Nick. You got a live question for us? You can pull it up on the screen.
In the twist taping chat. You want to read it?
Okay.
It's the last message in there.
Okay. Young and Bankrupt asks, what are the top Young and Bankrupt. Okay. What are the top buzzwords you're staying away from as investors right now? So I'll expand it from buzzwords, but I guess themes, verticals, business models. What do you say?
All buzzwords. If you bring buzzwords to me, I run. I fucking hate buzzwords. They're just so lazy.
It is lazy when people can't explain stuff in basic English. But let's go to verticals. I'll start with one.
Yeah, I gotta get power for my computer. Give me 1 second.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Do it. And 3, 2. So for me, it's D2C, direct to consumer. I love direct to consumer products. And I guess an offshoot of that would be consumer electronics. I love gadgets. I talk about gadgets all the time here on This Week in Startups. I talk about direct to consumer all the time. I love a lot of direct to consumer. But if you were to look at those two categories, direct to consumer, and you look at gadgets, consumer electronics, both of those are a race to the bottom. Both of those are low margin. Both of those cost a ton of money. So I have really, become less likely, maybe even completely moving away from ever investing in direct to consumer and consumer hardware. Now, a consumer or a business hardware solution that enables subscription, I'm okay with. So I think I'm not an investor in something like Whoop, but I looked at Whoop and it was like 40 or 50 bucks a month. And I was like, yeah, not for me for $600. I just want to buy my Fitbit or my Apple Watch and never have to worry about the subscription. But I do understand why Whoop did that, because Whoop's got to make the money on a subscription. And so maybe they have a smaller audience. But if you can buy a tracker and a heart rate monitor on Amazon for 50 bucks and going down, or a camera on, you can buy cameras now for $25 on Amazon, like security cameras. It just really sucks to be in the direct to consumer gadget business. So that for me is the buzzword, or I'll just expand it to theme or business model that I hate. One time hardware sales, hate. Hardware enabled SaaS, I have a great company, density.io, that's just crushing it. And so, and even CafeX moved to a subscription, and now they're actually, by selling the units to people at a profit and having a subscription, they have a viable business now. So that's what I'm staying away from. Anything like as a theme or a business model that, over the years you've just said, not for me.
I mean, I've been a crypto hater since it was nothing. Crypto, Web3, like that whole, it's funny. Like I literally, like anytime I see like an email coming in from, somebody pitching that says crypto Web3, I'm just like, I don't even respond. I just hit archive. I'm like, read my user manual. If you knew anything about me, my user manual is all over my Twitter. It says I don't invest in that shit. And they still send me that stuff. And I'm just like, nope. Like,
it's hard with the crypto stuff, because I do see sometimes smart people and I see enthusiasm. So you're like, oh, smart person, super enthusiastic about it. They drank the Kool-Aid. Okay. Entrepreneurs are weird. They get passionate about things. They change the world. I want to believe that. Yeah. But then I look at, what their behavior is showing, and everything is around the next grift, the next coin offering, the next NFT drop. And none of it's with the fundamental technology or delighting customers. It's all about how do we extract more investment, essentially, through these proxies for investment that aren't shares in a company. And to me, it's just like, I hate to do it, but I'm just like, the red flags are everywhere for me. And I just can't deal with it. I mean, sometimes I even get this, like, I get 2 red flags in an email, and I'm just like, no, I don't want to do your product's not launched and your valuation's 100 million. How am I supposed to reconcile that, as it goes against every tenet of investing for me, where I'm trying to determine, is this product real? And so it's very easy for me to archive those emails as well. And if my team takes one of those calls, I just tell them, put in our CRM system when the founder said they would launch. And then ping them 2 weeks before launch. And actually, can one of my producers make a note of that? I want to make sure that that's actually the best practice internally. So Rachel, make a note, check in with the investment team for today's call, and make sure 2 weeks before they launch, check in with them. Hey, you told us you're going to launch on this date. Wondering if you're still planning on launching on that date. Because then that shows we're super proactive, that we're anticipating the launch date.
That's great.
And I got to tell you, 9 out of 10 times they don't hit the launch date. And 5 out of 10 times when you check in with founders, they've pivoted. We're not doing that business. I shut that business down. So it's just, is there anything anything under the Web3 umbrella that has just tickled you a little bit, just a little feather tickle on your neck, Zach? Anything that just made you go, ooh.
One of the smartest people I know in the world is starting a Web3 company. And I told him, look, I'm investing in you. I'll invest in you no matter what
Antonio,
you do.
yes. He's been public about it.
I'm guessing he will potentially prove me wrong.
I would bet on him. I would bet on him. Yeah. I bet on him. It's an easy bet to make. Also be entertaining bet too. The only thing that I really like, I got to be honest, there were like two things I thought I wish somebody would work on this. And then I said it publicly here for years and nobody's actually made any progress. The first thing was I liked the digital rights management around NFTs or digital objects, where I know stock photography is like a big deal, or stock images, all that kind of stuff. So if somebody started a platform where I could take 10 photos from my, camera roll, I put them onto a photo sharing Getty kind of site, and I say, here's the rights. I want to sell the rights to this. I want to sell the rights to 80% of the monetization of this picture of Lake Tahoe to an investor for $100. And then I want 20% of however it's monetized in the future. And then I, as an investor, could go onto the site and say, I just want to, or even as like Getty could say, I just want to own these 20 images because we don't have any images of, Lake Tahoe or this, people using a electric surfboard on Lake Tahoe. Okay, great. So now we got 10 pictures of Zack using an electric thing. And okay, I bought the Zuckerberg picture or whatever. Somebody got a paparazzi shot. That would be kind of cool to me because I could see that marketplace developing and growing in weird ways. And just people told me, oh yeah, there's 20 of them. And there were 20. Yes, there were 20 white papers. Everybody had the same idea. Nobody actually built it. Fundamental problem in Web 3 is that nobody builds. Nobody finishes their products.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. One of my companies is kind of became tangentially involved in the Web3 world, which is a company called Entropy. So they use computer vision and AI to basically identify fraudulent physical goods. So using a cell phone, you can basically like take a Gucci purse and it says, oh, take a picture here, take a picture here, take a picture here, take a picture on this seam. And then because they've got this huge database of images of real purses and fake purses, they can tell you with really high certainty that that is a real or fake purse. That's called Entropy, ENTHUR. I can't even spell.
Great idea.
But the cool thing that they did, which is super powerful, is they now have built a technology where they can create a fingerprint, literally a unique fingerprint of any physical object. So basically a pair of Nikes comes off the assembly line and they take, basically using a high-powered camera, they take an image of a certain spot on the Nikes. And now they have basically a hash that they can attach to the NFT that goes with those Nikes. And then the owner of those Nikes can be like, okay, they were manufactured on this date in this place. And then when you sell those Nikes, anyone with a cell phone can basically take a picture of that spot. They get the same hash. They can compare it against basically the NFT and say, oh, this is literally this physical product. And it basically enables Nike to basically say, look, if your Nikes that you're buying don't have an NFT attached to them, they're fake. So if you're a Louis Vuitton, every purse now will have an NFT attached to it. They will say, this is a real NFT, a real purse. You
think about this use case, it's provenance, right? You want to make sure, and there's somebody who's a customer. Gucci and Louis Vuitton, they have a vested interest in paying for this product. Consumers get it for free. You got an enterprise customer who's going to say, yeah, every time one of these things goes off the line, we're going to take a picture of it and its serial number, and we're going to put it in the NFT. We're going to put it in the database. And now you have high-res phones. Yeah, it seems like a perfect case. Now, does it need to be an NFT? Of course it doesn't. It could just be in a database. But it doesn't hurt that it's published as an NFT because there'll probably be close to zero cost to that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they basically use this to power, if you're an NFT company and you want to add this to your capabilities, you can use their technology. It's called Brig, the product that they have that does this, BRIG. Or if you're Louis Vuitton, you could do it on your own blockchain if you want to, or you can do it on your own centralized database. It doesn't really matter. So I get sucked into this world, whether I like it or not, but
I get sucked into it as well. But I mean, it's like this, as those kids are doing, the startup's an 8, but it has an ICO, it has a coin.
Yeah.
It's a 6.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
I mean, it just, I stole that joke from Rachel. Well done, Rachel. Which is going to be my new Gen X, my new millennial Gen Z shit poster. Thanks for producer Rachel. But I mean, StockX could be a customer of this software. I also do like the NFTs for membership in clubs. And that to me makes a lot of sense as well, especially because then you could freely trade them. So I wanted to create a poker room, like a poker club.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to create my own.
And we talked about this.
Soho House.
We talked about this a long time ago in San Francisco. It'd be great.
Yeah. And so I wanted to create my own poker club where you could buy a membership for $10K. And then, we try to get, 200 people to buy it. And then we have $2 million. We set up a 500K space.
Yep.
Maybe have a 250K a year operating budget. Doesn't have to be a crazy space. It could be a 2,000 square foot space. We buy it, hopefully, pay the mortgage, whatever. And then everybody's got a share.
Yep.
Or maybe it's not a share because then we'd have to only have accredited, but they have a membership. The memberships last, 5 years or 10 years. So we come up with some time limit on the membership. And then at that point you do a smart contract to sell or whatever. And then if it's going to get sold, somebody could buy the share. You could sell it first back to the group or somebody in the group. And then after that, you can sell it to somebody else. But the majority, they have to have 10 people support that person's membership or something. All those kind of smart contracts out there just working could be really interesting, unless somebody tries to do a hostile takeover. And then all of a sudden it'd be better as a centralized thing.
I'm not smart enough to play in this world. Whenever people start going down this rabbit hole, I'm just like, yeah, it sounds super awesome. Good luck. I'll make my money over here on simple stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I saw Kevin Rose is doing his own club, and then Gary Vaynerchuk did a club, Fry Fish Club in New York. I had the founder on here. They raised like 15 or 20 million.
Wow.
And you can
fly fish
club. Yeah. Frying fish, fly fish, whatever it is.
Good,
and then there's somebody doing it. Producers, if you can pull it up, somebody's doing it in San Francisco by the Salesforce. So worst timing ever. But
shit,
some
God,
sort
they're
of,
so screwed.
They're so screwed.
San Francisco's so dead right now. It's like, talk about zombie apocalypse.
I want to drop 10K on an NFT to own a piece of, Soho House in Soma.
No.
I don't know if those people live here anymore. Sorry.
No, it's gone. The city has literally managed to just take the gun out, shoot itself in both feet, and then literally just shoot itself in the head. I mean, the city.
I don't know if you saw London Breed was like, we have to build back downtown. I'm like, oh my God, you guys went to war with the tech industry for 5 or 10 years. You blame them for everything.
Yeah.
They left.
Yeah.
And now you want to break bread with them because they left. Like, this is like the crazy ex-girlfriend who's like, I know I lit your house on fire and killed your puppy.
Yeah.
But I want to get back together. And it's like, you killed my puppy.
Yeah, you
lit my apartment on fire.
Yes, you shat in my bed.
You drove my car into the bay.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to be back with you.
Yeah. No, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's like,
I do like that we have a new DA. So congratulations.
Oh my God, thank God.
And she seems to be taking the job seriously. I'm rooting for her.
Yeah, I'm her biggest fan right now. It's like,
I mean, you did notice she cleared out all the public defenders who were infiltrated the DA's office, which if you were to write a novel,
oh my God,
about
we can go all day with this. We should stop because we're gonna just like spin each other up ranting about San Francisco, and that's not what we're supposed to talk about. Angel shit, right?
I do think though it does matter. Like it would be really good. Okay, let's look at it as an investment.
Sure.
Okay. Sure. You're looking at San Francisco as an investment.
Yeah. Short.
How close to the bottom are we? You're still shorting it.
Short. Oh, we haven't even got started yet. Oh yeah, think about this. So all the commercial real estate in downtown San Francisco, like we just showed in the earliest graph, is like probably 30, that's like 30% occupancy right now. All of those buildings are going to go bankrupt. All of them. And the tax base that supports that, all of that shit is going to basically just grind down. And it's a long, slow process. It doesn't happen overnight. And the city has
leases are what on average? Those big leases are 5 years on average.
Yeah, they have long-term leases, but they slowly come off. And so those buildings are going to go bankrupt. The city has a $14 billion budget that it just literally just blows money on $20,000 trash cans. They're like literally, the city is now placing trash cans around that cost $20,000 because it's had so much money they could do so many stupid things, and it takes time for that to kick in.
And then if you think about it like operating like a startup, this is the startup that won't recognize that things have changed. Like they literally will not take the medicine and say, okay, nobody wants to come here.
Yeah.
I had one of the venues we love to use, beautiful venue, inside of the mall on Market Street. Bespoke, I think it's called.
Yeah, Bespoke. Yes, a beautiful spot.
Venue. Loves using it. Incredible team over there. And they're like, hey, J Cal, remember you used to do this stuff? I was like, even I, with as much charisma as well as I could design an event, even I cannot get people to come to fly to San Francisco.
Why would
I get them to come to Napa.
Yeah.
I might get them to come to Palo Alto.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting them to set foot in San Francisco. You guys screwed it.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm really sorry, but I literally told them, if you gave me the space for free, I couldn't make it work.
Yeah.
Like literally, if you gave me $100,000 worth of free space in AV, I still would say no.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
So bad. And then I do it in Miami. How bad it is. Yeah. Miami. Yeah. People go to
like, oh, you're doing something in Miami? I'll go. Yeah. And I'm like, do you want to know what it is? They're like, no, I just want to go to Miami.
Yeah, totally. Or Austin, or New York, or
anywhere.
Or LA. I mean, LA is a little bit shitty too, but
you know what? It depends on the area of LA, but people might go to LA. Yeah. All right. So in breaking news, it looks like London Breed is releasing an ICO coin. She's going to be doing the $SF grow, and San Francisco is going to grow again. I'm still short San Francisco. I agree.
Short.
It's going to take
super short.
They're not allowing the building of units, and Soma has 5 years of circling the trash can. I was talking to somebody who works in finance, and their company makes them come in 3 days a week.
Yeah.
He said, I was like, what's going on with the traffic? He's like, well, it's really interesting. Traffic is not as dead as you think it would be. And he was talking about cars. And I was like, wait, I don't understand. It's a ghost town. He's like, it's still a ghost town, but anybody who goes to the ghost town drives. Yeah. So there were a lot of people who would take BART, but now nobody wants to get on BART. It's too dangerous. They're scared for their lives.
Yeah.
So they don't want to get attacked by a junkie on the BART. Sorry to use the term, but let's call it what it is. Like these are people who are addicted to very powerful drugs and are not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
And you just can't run a competitive city in that regard. So yes, I'm still short. Okay, let's take another question here. So I do like the NFT as I'm still liking smart contracts, still liking NFTs, still liking the marketplace business, but a lot of work left to happen. Let's take another question. How much dilution after seed rounds turns into a red flag? What's the lowest founder equity before it becomes problematic? I'm going to clarify the question to make it easier for you to answer. What's the lowest founder equity that you would invest in a seed round or a VC would invest in a Series A? For, let's just say it's a solo founder or two founders combined equity. So in a seed round, the minimum for founders.
If they don't own at least 65% of the business, I start getting worried, because what happens is let's say they own, like they come into the seed, they own 60% of the business. And let's say we raise 20%. So they take 20% dilution on that 60%. So they lose 12 points. So now they're at 48% going into the Series A. What's going to happen when the Series A occurs is the new lead investor is going to look at that and be like, oh, the next investor is going to be unhappy as well. So I need to re-up these founders today. So I'm going to create a new, instead of a 15% option pool, I'm going to make it a 25% option pool. And then I'm going to give basically, let's call it 5 or 8 points to the founders to re-up them so that I don't get diluted in the exact same way by the later investors behind me.
Got it.
And so the more dilution you have in that early stage, the new investor is going to either say, I'm going to do the same thing. And I've had to do that where I'm like, okay, I need you to be re-upped, or basically like, I'm going to get screwed over by the next investor. And then I'm screwing the investors who came before me, and everybody gets all pissed off, and it becomes a really messy situation.
Because you don't want the founders to quit. If the founders start getting, let's call it under 20% each. You have two founders, they're under 40% collectively, they're under 30% collectively. It's fine for them to be at, 20, 30% at the IPO, 10% at the IPO. Yeah, great. Yeah, if it's, that's what Larry and Sergey are at, 11% each or something. Zack at 20%. That's fine at the IPO, but you really don't want to get down to low single digits at the IPO, or, I would say at the seed, I would agree, got to be over 50%. At a minimum for the seed round. And then at the Series A, you're probably going to want to be 40, 50% at a minimum. Here's a follow-up question. Should the equity grant that's given to, maybe give the founders a fighting chance here, should that occur during financings or should it occur at a board meeting? Because the thing I found that I don't like is investors using the top off as a way to win the deal.
Yeah. The only way you as an investor can make sure that that doesn't happen is you have to make sure that there's a competitive financing. You've got to make sure that there are other investors at the table so that those folks can basically bring good offers, and hopefully you have good relationships with them so that they don't screw you over. But yeah. Hey, I got to grab my charger's not working. I'm going to go grab the other one. Give me 1 second.
All right, everybody. Tell us how we're doing in the chat. We got 69 thumbs up. Very well done. Let's get another 30 in there and get to 100 and we'll give away a mug. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I like this Bob G question. What advice do I repeat all the time? When do you advise a founder to find a co-founder? Another great basic question. Good job, Bob G. Always OG Bob G with great questions. 71 thumbs up, 200 people watching. Fantastic job, everybody. Keep sharing the love. Always great for the show to share the love and tune in. If you have any angels, if they have questions, that'd be great to get a couple of angel questions in here. Send a quick. All right, I'm going to send a quick message to some of our angel friends. Hopefully we get some angels in here. Awesome. Love the show. Thanks for saying that. Okay, next up, do we have another great
The most recent question in Twist Taping is an angel question.
Oh, great. All right. So Josie Martinez asks, as an angel writing small checks, 1 to 3K, how to best navigate due diligence without being overbearing or annoying? Great question.
At 1 to 3K, you don't get to ask questions. Like,
you're along for the ride. You're just placing a bet.
You get whatever materials they have prepared, and you get to make your decision accordingly. I don't think that anyone really gets to start asking for new materials or new diligence questions unless they're investing at least 10% of the round. So whatever the round size is, unless you're a 10% or plus check, like you don't get to ask for, like, you can ask questions to the founder if you get to talk to them, like obviously ask whatever questions you want, but you can't be like, I need you to do X. Because like when that happens and I'm leading the round, I just tell the founder, I'm like, nah, tell them to go pound sand. I'll take their piece because I just don't have time for people who waste founders' time.
Yeah. So you have to be realistic. If it's $1 million round and you're putting in, 1K, you're not even 1% of the round. You don't want to slow the founder down. And now, if you're part of a syndicate, Zack syndicate, my syndicate, any syndicate, or some group that's investing, you can always ask the lead and read the lead's deal memo and what their thinking is. But again, I would say your diligence could be using the product. Your diligence could be looking at reviews of the product, and your diligence could be asking questions. But you're basically using your syndicate lead. You're using the other people who are putting in the 250K checks, the $1 million checks. You're using them as a proxy for your diligence. And if you're not comfortable with that, totally understand. You want to do firsthand diligence, that's great. But we can't have 100 people asking 10 questions each and asking to see bank balances and, legal documents. So you're relying on good faith when you're making small checks and everybody else's diligence. I think it's a pretty good rule. 10% of the round, you can ask new questions. Sure, you're putting in 100 of K, 6-figure investment. It's not chump change of $1 million round. Great. You're putting in 100K to a $25 million round. Okay, now that 100K is in the same position. Yep. Just don't slow everybody down. We got to move fast here. And it's risk capital. You're taking a risk here, so you kind of blend it in. What kind of diligence do you find is the most effective for you? And when you're doing a large portion of the round, what do you focus on with your team in terms of diligence?
Well, team is me. So I team in singular. My favorite hack is I ask for all the updates they've ever written. Because
wow, what a great hack.
Because the updates have been if there's any indication of the companies that are most successful in my portfolio, it's the ones that write great updates. And then the ones that I don't get updates from almost invariably have a lot of trouble. And that's the best. That for me is like, I look for that always.
If things are going well, you write updates. Things aren't going well, you try to fix it and then write an update. Travis used to send regular updates about Uber.
That's
Alex
awesome.
would send updates about Com. Why wouldn't they? Sometimes the update was like, we grew 72% quarter over quarter. The end.
Yeah. That's cool. That's all you need to send.
And that's good. I mean, I literally just had a CEO take over a company from the founder. They sent an update with no numbers, no charts in it, their personal bio, everything they've done in their career. And it was like, oh my Lord. And I just wrote them back this morning and I said, listen, congrats on the new job. Here's what we need. And actually, this would be interesting. I'm going to read to you what I said to a founder. This will be like a first live read. I'm not going to say the founder's name, but this is my writing. So I'm entitled to do it. Let's see. Where is okay. So here's what I said. Great first update, but a bit heavy on the text and no real metrics.
Yeah.
I'm candid. I got a big, 7-figure investment in this. Please send us for Q2 and going forward. Number 1, monthly revenue spend and burn in a chart and a table for the year.
Yeah.
So folks can see the trend.
Yeah.
Please include quarterly performance for the past 8 quarters. Again, so folks can see the trend.
Yeah.
3, please include our target for the quarter and year and how we are trending toward it.
Mm-hmm.
4, headcount. 5, cash in the bank,
Mm-hmm.
at a specific date,
Mm-hmm.
and runway based on that.
Yeah.
Very simple 5 bullet points there.
Yeah.
Now, if you're running the company properly, you have number 1, the monthly revenue and spend. Your accountants give it to you.
Yeah.
Number 2, you have quarterly because you do board meetings and you have to show that at the board meeting. Number 3, you should have targets. If you don't have targets and you're a Series A company, like what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like if you're in an
trivial.
accelerator, but you don't have customers yet, maybe you don't have targets. Headcount. If you don't know your headcount, you should be able to get that in 10 seconds. And then cash in the bank at a specific date. You just open up your Bank of America or Wells Fargo, whatever your jam is, and you take a look.
Yeah. Yeah.
Runway, you look at your last 3 months burn, you average it. Now you know your runway. This is simple stuff, folks. Now, the update I got, I kid you not, was over 1,000 words. So 1,000 words, but didn't include any of that. And that makes you terrified as an investor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing as a founder, you do need to know when you're scaring the shit out of your investors. And that long email without any numbers means things are screwed in the mind of an investor. We could be wrong, but that's what we're thinking.
Yeah, because if you're going to spend that time writing that email, that's time you're not spending growing the business, talking to customers, working with your team. And so like there better be a really good reason why you spent all that time writing all that stuff.
And why are the numbers not in here?
Yeah.
Number 1, you don't know them. Oh my God, you don't know them?
Yeah, we have a huge problem.
Number 2, they're disastrous.
Yeah.
Okay, they're disastrous. Isn't that the time to tell us so we can help?
Yeah.
So if it is the second question, so if it's the first, oh my God, you're not qualified to run the company. We need to get you help, COO, whatever. Number 2, if you're not sharing it with us because you're ashamed, I understand that gut reaction. You want to make it better. Just tell us because we might be able to tell you how to make it better because it's not our first time at the rodeo. So really, founders, please take this in. If you're not telling the investors, we are now in our head then playing out every scenario, just like Zack and I. If we're in a poker hand and Zack and I are playing heads up and the board's got 2 hearts, and there's no straight on the board and Zack's raising and I'm raising. Okay. I'm going, well, I've got a set and I've got top set. So he's got a middle set or
I hope I'm on a good draw.
Or he's on a flush draw.
Yeah.
Okay. And are we running it twice? Like we're now handicapping each other's hands. And I'm going, okay, I guess I got to get all my money in here.
Yeah.
And we're trying to level each other. We're trying to figure it out. We do this for a living with the investments. So when that update comes in, know that Zack and I are saying, why did the founder not include the numbers?
Yeah.
Is it bad? Do they not know them? Do they need more support? And so, your updates have to be tight, and tight is right. All right. This is a great question. How do you know if you're good at investing? I'm investing my own money, 1 to 6K, been at it 3 years. A lot of companies are doing very well, but it's all paper.
Yep.
Money. Is it just patience? What a great question, Eric Weiner. How would you assess yourself in year 3, which if we do know the J curve, and I'll ask my team to pull up just do a Google search for Angel and J curve or pull up the Angel University slide with it. There's a J curve in there. The J curve says you start investing money, your portfolio will be underwater in years 2, 3, 4. before the values start going up. That's the J curve.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you know in that specific sophomore, junior year, if you're any good at this? You're in sophomore year.
I mean, I think the short answer is that you don't. Even if everything is going up and to the right and everything is marked up, and you've had, like, I had $1 billion exit 12 months after I started. That meant nothing. There was not an indication that I was good or smart or knew what I was doing. And even now I look at my portfolio, and the meat of the portfolio is a number of companies where I have large ownership stakes and they've become very large businesses, but like, it's still not cashed out. They haven't gone public yet. We haven't taken them to the level where they turn into real money. So even 8 years into it, it's pretty clear that I'm on the right trajectory. I'm like, on the trajectory level, I'm very good at it. But until I return, 5+X to my 5-10X to my LPs, I don't know. We'll see.
Here's what I would look at, Eric, just to give you some signals. Now the J curve, we'll bring it up here. You start investing, you put this money to work, pull up the J curve, the JCal curve again. You have management fees, you're deploying capital. There's not enough time for the rounds to go up. So you see here, the initial commitment is, the bar, and you have management fees, you're investing, sometimes business is shut down. So you're going to take those losses early. And that means your portfolio by definition is underwater. If you were to invest in, he says he's invested in, he's been at it 3 years. He's putting that in. We don't have the total number that Eric has invested, but I'm going to just say, let's say Eric's invested in 10 companies. So that's enough to have a little diversification. I would rather see you at 20, let's say. So let's put the number at 20.
Yeah.
You got 20. That means you got a good chance here. You got stuff spread around. And let's say you're only investing in companies that have products in market. Now, and let's say half of them have revenue, half don't, but half of them have products in market. Okay, let's say you get to year 2 or 3 here, where you're at, maybe 3 or 4 of the companies, and let's say you put, $5K into each. So 20 times 5, $100K. All right, you have 4 companies that went out of business. They shut down. They had seed funding. It's year 3. They couldn't raise another round. They raised a bridge, then they went out of business. So you have negative 20. You can write those companies off. Now, let's say 3 of the companies have raised up rounds and the other ones are still deploying and have some revenue, but they haven't raised their next round. Very hard to know what's going on here. You know for sure that you have negative 20. So you're down to 80K of live investments. The top 3 have raised up rounds. So on paper, they doubled in value. So the 15 of those turned into 30. So you're plus 15. So you're at 95 on paper. Yeah. How do you know?
Yeah, you don't.
Well, here's how you know. You don't, but you can look for signals of, is the revenue in those top companies growing? Zack said before, I have 700 million in revenue for my investments. Zack is looking at his companies and just saying, what's the revenue of the companies? Not the valuations, the revenue. So there's a proxy. Just start looking at the revenue of the actual companies and know about power laws. When this J curve here has that big spike towards the end, that's representing 1 to 3 companies out of probably 2 companies out of your 20. So that's what you need to know, is focus on the winners. And what does their revenue look like? To do a callback, Zack said earlier, hey, I like to plow more money into a company. And I said, well, what's the metric for that? And he said 3X year over year revenue growth. So that's what I would be looking for. You got any 3Xers in there? Somebody had 200K this year. They have 600K this year. They had 600K last year. They got 1.7 million this year. That would be the early signs of winning. But truth is, you don't. This is why VCs don't get fired, but in their second or third funds, when the chickens come home to roost in year 10. It's a great question. And Eric replied, he had 35 companies, about 60K total. So you'll know, just stick with it. And the more you can invest in, like Zack and I like to do, of companies that have launch products and revenue, the less zeros you're going to see. So that would be a healthier portfolio. Now, some people love to invest pre-product market fit. I have some friends who do that. God bless them. The world needs them. But my best advice when you're starting out is to play, this is poker, play good cards in position was the best advice I ever got. Annie Duke was like, why are you playing 8-10 suited under the gun? Like, are you really going to defend this position when you get a raise and a re-raise? You're probably going to toss these cards. So you just wasted that blind. So just think that through. Play better cards, play less cards, play in position. That's what we're talking about here. Anything to add to that, Zack?
I think it's great.
Let's take another question from our amazing audience. What's the best question we got right now, Nick? live audience preferred, but we'll take the best of the rest, of course. And we're at 80 thumbs up, really close to giving away this twist mug. Let's go. I want to give this twist mug away. What do I got to do to get you guys to hit that thumbs up? YouTube.com/thisweekend. Hit the thumbs up for your squad. 230 people watching. Every 10 minutes we do this, we had another 10, 20 people, which is awesome. But I would love to send this $200 This Week in Startups mug to everybody. Give me a question, Nick. Zeb asks, Zeb asks, as a founder, when should you provide Prorata to angels and when not? Okay, so this is not from our side of the table. This is in the founders. I like the way you phrased the question, Zeb. As a founder, should you give Prorata to angels or not?
Yeah, so I argue you should giving Prorata. You should only ever agree to giving Prorata if you're forced to. In best case scenario, no one should ever have Prorata, but basically you should, as a founder, you should always have some amount of the allocation of the next round. Usually I would argue 10% or more that you get to allocate however you want to whoever's most useful and most helpful to you, the company. And I see this all the time where a new VC will come in and they'll say, no extra allocation for any of the existing investors. And when that happens, I send them an email. I'm like, look, I've done this amount of work for this company. I brought in this director of engineering. I brought in this salesperson. And from now on, I'm done. I am no longer working for this business and you will get no more help from me. And by the way, I'm never going to send you another deal again. And so
okay, you take a wartime stance.
Oh yeah. Like when you do that to me, like if you cut me out of the round and that I've been in from the beginning,
let's go.
Like you're dead to me and we're
Swords
done.
Out. Let's
and
go.
By the way, this company, and I make sure the founders on the email, like I love you, but like I no longer have an incentive to keep investing in the business, my time and energy, if I don't get to keep investing my capital. And so I think every founder should have the ability to reward the useful angels. And if you're free riding, like if you're an angel and you come on board and you write a check and then you're done, you're not helping at all, well, you shouldn't get any more allocation. And so I don't think it should be contractual pro rata. I think it should be rewarded pro rata.
Earned pro rata. Yeah. I like your approach. I think as a founder, that's in your best interest. And for me, as an investor, I take a very simple approach. We own over 5%, we get a board observer seat, we have pro rata. We own over 10%, we get a full board seat. That's basically where I've wound up with what I think is fair. And I make it an option. I'm unique as a early stage investor. I know my value. I know I can bring value to the table. And then every time I've had this come up where somebody tries to take away our board right or whatever, or take away our pro rata, I just get on the phone with them. In fact, I'm doing one of these calls today or tomorrow where some new investor, they're putting in 10%, we own 9% or 11%. And they're like, yeah, we don't want them on the board. They're, whatever, no pro rata for them. And then I just talk to them and I say exactly what you just discussed. Hey, and I tell the founders this. I actually give the founders a preemptive discussion about this. Hey, know this, when we get to the next round, somebody might try to screw us. If they screw us, there's only one person left to screw. That's you, the founder. We are in this together. Yep. We're always going to have your back. Yep. So therefore, when people come to screw us, you should fight for us, because having us on your board, having us as a major shareholder means we're going to fight for you.
Yep.
And then every subsequent investor should be joining that philosophy. We fight for each other. So the seed round lead and the Series A fight together to find a Series B who respects the Series A and the seed.
Yep.
And then we all build consensus. And I got to tell you, one of the beautiful things is looking at density or other wins, calm. Everybody has been respectful. And, you're able to have this great board dynamic where the seed investor, the Series A, the Series B, and then people are like, oh, we don't want to have too big of a board. The lawyers come up with all these, and the Series A people come up with all these, rules. And it's like, board can be 7, it could be 5, doesn't matter. What a board of 5 where it's 3 from the Series A or 2 from the Series A, is not as good actually as 1 from the Series A, 1 from the seed. I would argue the seed investors who've been with the company longer might have a lot to add here. So therefore, like, everybody chill out and think about the value. I love your framing. It's great framing. Who's providing value, and give them the reward.
Yeah.
And, the no free rides is great. Now, if you're an angel on the other side of the table, if you're not a major investor, you can try to you're within your right to ask for pro rata.
Yeah.
But if you're under 5% or 10% of the round, should you really get it? I like when they get it, but I understand that they really don't have the standing. And then just have the debate on what a major investor is. The major investor rights, generally start at 25% of the round. So if it's $1 million round, 250. If it's a $2 million round, 500. Seems reasonable to me. A 250K check's a lot of money. So maybe it's 100K, maybe it's 250K. I think you really should, negotiate that in good faith. And I love your approach, Zach. Anything to add to that?
Oh, the only thing I would say is that if you can help the founder in the fundraise process, like very early on, help review the deck, help with introductions to other investors, help listen to the pitch and give them feedback. That keeps you in pole position to be useful as that round progresses. And so one thing I will often do is when they're getting ready to raise, the first thing I'll be like, I'm in for $1 million and it's on an email. I'm going to let you know right now. And by the way, you can tell all the new investors that I'm in at $1 million already. And so that helps them when they're going out fundraising, because basically they know, they're like, hey, I'm raising money and we already have Zack, he's in, and these other investors are in. And like, so this is already going to be a competitive round. And that helps in the process to make sure that then I don't get screwed by the new investors. So ball control, you're never going to have ball control. The founder has ball control, but if you're there ready to help them and support them in that process, you're going to be in a much better spot.
All right, Tom S., a question that's a really hard one. Have you ever advised a founder to leave the CEO role? Have you ever advised a founder that they should give up the CEO role? I've had the discussion with a founder multiple times when either they were being pushed by a board or they were considering it themselves. So I have had the conversation, and I'm trying to think if my advice was ever to do it. Have you ever advised somebody to leave as founder, advised the founder to leave the CEO slot? I've never had to proactively do it, but I've had the conversation with people about it.
I've not.
What would it take for you to advise the founder that, hey, maybe the CEO slot's not for you? What would it have to look like?
Just incompetence.
Okay.
But I have told the companies that I've lost faith, and I'm like, just let you know, I no longer believe in the directions you're going, and I don't believe that you're going to be able to achieve it. That doesn't mean I'm right. I don't have my hands on the metal. I don't have full visibility into everything that's going on. I don't understand your space as well as you do. It doesn't mean I'm right. But it does mean that I will no longer be investing in the business. And I have become a passive investor, and I'm along for the ride.
So you'll be clear with them about that. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Why do you do that? For people who don't understand why you're taking the time to be that frank, that candid with the founder, why do you do that?
Because I strongly believe in my view of where they're at and what they're doing and where they're going. And I'm like, I don't think this is right. And I'm now going to tell you how strongly I believe this. And so that you can understand that when you take my opinion into your calculus, because at the end of the day, they're the ones making the decision. They have more information than I do. They're closer to the metal. They have to make the best decision they can make. And so me putting sort of my stake in the ground there, I think is helpful in that process. And I've only had to do it a couple times. Do you ever ask them
to buy you out in that situation, or offer that? Like, hey, listen, I don't want to be dead weight on the cap table. If you want to buy me out in the next round, that's available.
I have done that. Yeah. I had a round where it was David Sachs was competing against another VC firm. And the other VC firm came in with a bunch of like really silly ideas, but they overpaid. And I was like, look, I think this is a big mistake. I'm not participating in this round because I don't like the direction these guys are going, and I don't think it's a good idea. And by the way, if you want to buy me out, I'm okay with that. I think you should go with Sachs. I think the direction he wants to go with you is better. Yep. But they made the choice they made. They didn't buy me out. I'm along for the ride. The company's doing well, but I think Sachs would have taken them further and faster. But we'll see.
I mean, hard to say no to Sachs. That seems like the guy
I think
you
they
want
made a
on
mistake.
Your team.
This perfect company for him too. I'm like, he was literally personally going to join the board. I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
It's very rare to get a legendary guy on your board like that. It's kind of a hard one to turn down.
Have you read the new book about PayPal called The Founders?
I haven't read it yet, but Sachs bought the rights to it for a movie, I think.
It's a good book, and Sachs is a fucking
right
hero in that book. He's like, I wonder if he pulls some nefarious shit to make sure that he got the hero card in there, because he looks so good in that book.
History is written by the victors. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And for the people who underwrite it. So he did buy the book rights. So it's kind of hard. Yeah. I don't know what happened there. If you buy the movie rights to the book, do you get a little extra shine in the book?
Maybe, because he looks like a genius all the way through that book.
Leonardo DiCaprio playing David Sachs in The Founders.
Well, it's interesting. I'm reading a book called The Power Law, which I'm almost done with. So I recommend to everybody.
Yeah.
It's a good listen. It's got one of those like really professional folks. It basically goes through like the history of venture capital. It feels like it wasn't primary research. It feels like they took all of the existing books out there.
Yeah.
And they just made a nice package. It's almost like a History Channel, like overview of the industry, but it's a good one. And it's very simple and it's very to the point. And it really explains, like, chapter by chapter, each of the seminal moments in the history of the Valley, Kleiner with Ellen Powell, but Kleiner before that with Tom Perkins and his reign. And it really goes into the dynamics of Founders Fund and how it was formed. It goes into the Facebook, Meshuggah showing up in pajamas. It's all rehashed stuff. I didn't find anything new in it. For me, there were a couple of stuff in the early days of venture that I was aware of, but the fact that they streamed together in like 15 chapters, each of the moments in history, was very reinforcing to me. It was like somebody making an abstract on the history of venture capital and being like, here's what you need to know. These are the 15 important stories. So it's kind of like a best of, like one of those, like, what it reminded me of is like the 90s, like VH1 does the 90s. And it's like, if you weren't there for it, here's Nirvana. Here's what you need to know about Pearl Jam. Here's Smashing Pumpkins. And it's a good book in that way. So I recommend it to anybody who's starting off in VC as a good book to catch up. And they do go into the whole formation of Founders Fund and the whole fight between Moritz and Sean Parker and Ruloff coming in. I haven't finished it. Somebody told me I mentioned towards the end. And they also go into the forming of Y Combinator, which I knew, but it was good to sort of hear even more about it and just remember that moment in time. I think they had a big impact. They don't talk about Angel List, which I guess maybe, they kind of stopped talking about stuff in the 2010 range, but I think Angel List has had such a profound, and Syndicates has such a profound impact that it's changed. But they talk a lot about angels and super angels. So they talk a little bit about Ron Conway and his role in all of this. So I think it's pretty great. In terms of back to the original question of advisor, the CEOs, the reason I bring that up is because they talk a lot about removal of the CEO. And that ended with Larry and Sergey. That was like kind of the last time it happened. And then Founders Fund said, we're going to just let the founders, as awkward as they are, run these companies. For me, what would it take? Malfeasance, like doing something illegal. I've had this situation a couple of times where, founders would do something with the cap table that was like, whoa, that's maybe illegal. And certainly Delaware law would pounce on you. Like, we're going to all get sued situation. And in those cases, I do ask, hey, just please buy me out and get me off the cap table. In one case, I just said, this company is now 2 years old. You can buy me out at the cash I put in. And I'll move on. Literally don't need to have a gain on it. Mazel tov. I can put the money to work somewhere else. And so I think that's what I try to do is if I really disagree, you don't need me, or I could become, I'll sell half my shares, get me to under 5%. Don't need my board observer seat. Just semi-quarterly updates is what I ask. And then I try to make that contractual that I'll get quarterly updates on the way out, because you really do want people to live up to that expectation, as we heard. Let's take a final question, because here we are. We got Zack. Zach, you're in the zone today. Really appreciate you coming here.
Just drafting off of you, bro. You're always in the zone. I
do this for a living, but
you're a pro, obviously.
That's it. I enjoy our time together because it makes me a little mentally sharper.
Thank you. You're so generous.
Let me ask you a question. How long do you think the down market's going to be, and what's your strategy as an investor as we go into, let's just say the first 2 quarters were, let's say if we are in fact in a recession, we're close to it. I think we all agree that that's the likely scenario. So first half of the year, 2 sequential quarters of either down market in all likelihood. We'll find out what Q2 is. Crazy interest, obviously a pullback, late stage, investors are gone. What is Zack Coelius's strategy going into the next 6 months, the second half of 2022, and then more importantly into 2023? What's your strategy?
So I have
playing in a high stakes poker game here. What's your strategy?
No, I mean, it's I've got $100 million of capital I got to put to work. That's a very high stakes poker game that I play in. It's much higher stakes than I can afford to play with real money, with at least my cash money. For now. We'll see. It's
hey, turn that 100 into 500, you get 20% of the game. You'll be sitting on 80 million.
So far, I'm doing very well. We'll see if it keeps going that way. I got a couple companies I want to see IPO, and then I'll be ringing the bell.
Such a great feeling.
So I think about life. I think about all these things as a duality. Like, and there's two approaches to this, and they're kind of separate. From a macro perspective, I feel like there is a shit ton of dumb stuff that got done over the last 10 years that is going to get wrung out as interest rates go up. That's going to lead to a recession. I think it's just so much like just silly expansion and just dumb investment that is going to lead to significant downturns globally. So like you look at the Chinese real estate market, like, I mean, that they're going through that workout process, and it's going to be long and slow and painful. When you have Jamie Dimon, who I think is literally one of the smartest people in the world, saying, hey, guys, the pain is here, it's coming. I listen to people like that. And like when the best capital allocators in the world, Bezos and Musk, were selling at the end of last year, I was watching that being like, uh-oh.
Yeah, that was right.
So yeah, I personally believe that like we have a lot more pain coming. I just finished reading Paul Volcker's book about sort of the late 70s and early 80s. And like, it was just really eye-opening to me, the amount of pain that they went through during that period. And it's funny, like you look at San Francisco, it's
which one is that? Changing Fortunes?
It's called
Keeping at It.
Keeping at It. Good book. And it's funny, if you look at basically like San Francisco, it's very analogous to New York in the 60s, New York and Detroit in the 60s, which is that it was like boom times, everybody was rich, and everyone was just building big buildings, and everyone was just feeling how awesome they were. The Nifty 50 were on fire. And so you ended up with this very progressive leadership in both of those cities that, as the general market downturn coming into the 70s, led to the hollowing out of both New York and Detroit in a significant way. I mean, San Francisco is following that to a T. I mean, absolutely to a T. And so I feel like we could have a lot of pain in front of us. That said, I'm an early stage investor, and I look for companies that are doing new things that's not going into an established market. They're trying to basically push a button, we get a car level, sort of like, oh my God, I want that immediately, sort of new stuff. And that's a 10-year play. And it's rare for me to see those companies. They don't come along very often. And when I find them, I'm going to back up the truck and buy as much of them as I can. Thankfully now at much lower prices than I would have had to pay, a year or two later. But I'm very, very, very scared about follow-on capital. A year ago, there was no such thing as follow-on capital risk. Everything was getting funded. Like, across my portfolio, I have over 60 businesses, and we only had one bankruptcy. And that's because everything kept getting funded. It's just like money. And now I'm scared of that. I think we're going to see a significant number of these companies that will raise a seed round and that will not be able to raise Series A's, and that will go out of business. And so that is where I'm spending a lot of my time thinking about, which is like, can the follow-on capital support these guys as they go forward? Because me or someone else, because I'm not depending on the next investor.
Yeah, I have a similar strategy. I'll probably deploy more capital, or I'm hoping to deploy more capital into more deals in the coming year than I have ever done in my career. Nice. And my thinking is the valuations will be reasonable once again, and the founders who are operating and able to get to their first customer, not 0 to 1 in the Peter Thiel sense, but 0 to 1 in 0 paid customers, 1 paid customer. That is a huge jump. Like getting somebody to put their credit card in, huge jump. If I can find those companies, they've got the 1 paying customer, 2 paying customers, they got the $5 to $15 million valuation, they've got the 3 to 10 employees, and I make that bet in a down market when other people don't want to. I've got a founder who's resilient and clever enough, resourceful enough. So resourceful and resilient founders who have their product in market with a customer, that's where I'm putting my energy. And if you don't have a customer yet, or you're still working on your product, that's fine. But I have some people who built a no-code solution and got to 5 customers. Okay, so they literally have no coding experience, but they took Bubble or Webflow or Notion plus Zapier plus if this then that plus Airtable, whatever glue they did, and they duct taped something together, and they delighted 3 customers. I'm going to take that person over the person who theatrically gives me the best pitch in the world. I just need people who can build shit and are resilient and resourceful, because you're literally going out into the open ocean in a shitstorm. I mean, you're literally going into a maelstrom, and I need a MacGyver out there on that boat. I need people who can look at the rations and say, here's how we're going to ration this. Here's how we're going to get to the new world. Here's how we're going to survive. We know how to get water from the sails. We know how to kill seagulls, or we know how to fish. I need you to survive.
Yeah.
If you don't got survival skills and you go try to do a Shackleton type thing, you're going to be on day 2.
Yeah.
And you're going to be curled up in a ball on the lower deck asking for your mommy. Right. And I can't have those founders.
Yeah.
I need the resourceful ones. All right. This has been amazing. Everybody follow Zack on the social media, Zack Coelius. Amazing job as always. And he's pretty active on the Twitter. That's a great place to find him. He likes to invest in companies like I do that have resourceful founders who build great products that have some amount of traction. Email us both. Email us both if you got, what we just described, and we'll co-lead you around. You got a SaaS company, you got 25K in revenue. That's the kill zone for Zack and I, right? That's where we're coming in hot. We're coming in hot with an offer. So let's get a deal going here. Let's get a deal.
Every
time we do this, we're trying to find a deal. So email us. What's your best email that you like to give out?
So z@coelius.vc.
Okay. And I'm Jason at calacanis.com. Email the two of us and say, hey, here's a Jay-Z deal. Get a Jay-Z deal going, and let's awesome. Hashtag us Jay-Z deals. All right, we'll see you all next time on This Week in Star Wars. Bye, Zack. Thank you. Great job. All right.
Thanks, Zack. Real quick, hit stop on that audio file, and then Command S on your keyboard, and then just type in. You can
don't kill the stream, Nick.
I won't.
Okay.
What the fuck?
Oh, no audio. That happens sometimes. All right, no problem.
I swear I started it.
All right, everybody.
Look at me. I was so proud.
Tell us your best bio. That's why Nick's supposed to ask you what your clock is at. How many seconds? And we would not have screwed this up. But okay, it's all on Nick. Don't worry.
No, it's on me. Nick was expecting me to be a pro because I supposedly am a pro, and I dropped the ball like an amateur.
The good news is we record backups on Zoom.
And on YouTube.
Yeah, but we have the ISO. We have the ISO backup on Zoom, so we actually have Zack's ISO.
All right, everybody, tell me your favorite business book or biography or autobiography in the chat, and I'll give one that I like or that somebody on the team likes.
Sneaky, unbelievable autobiography. Mike Tyson.
Ooh,
really?
Unbelievable.
Ooh. Yes. What's it called?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I read it like 10 years ago, but it was unbelievable.
I got to read that. That sounds cool.
Just look up Mike Tyson autobiography.
Here's a sneaky one. Who played Sampras? Who was Sampras's competitor? The little shorter guy who always wore the bandana because he went bald.
I know the guy you're talking about.
It's not McEnroe. It's Brooke Shields is
Undisputed Truth is the Mike Tyson autobiography.
I just bought it on Audible. All right, so pick a book from.
Does it say if Tyson reads it himself? Because that's going to be unbelievable.
All right, let's see.
Andre Agassi. Agassi.
Yes.
Yeah. Great book. Really great book.
I actually heard that was amazing. Andre Agassi's autobiography.
It's really the most honest. Like you read that and you're like, God, this guy's my man. He's honest.
All right. Pick somebody, Nick, who is in the chat right now. Oh, I read Steve Van Zant's. I'm listening to Steve Van Zant's. It's really good. Anybody got Shoe Dog's a great one. Nick, can you pick one to give?
Yeah, I'm looking. I have a hard time. I'm bad at this. I'm terrible at picking someone.
Book is called Open.
Oh, let's go with Eric Weiner, however you say your last name.
Okay.
He submitted a great question today.
Oh, go with him? Okay, great.
Yeah.
What is the Phoenix Project? What's that? About IT DevOps. Oh, okay. Don't know that one. Okay, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. And I get to read 2 ads. Let me read my 2 ads.
Yeah. Okay.
Zack, you're good to go.
We don't need you. You're dismissed.
All right. Good working with you guys. Take care.
Good working with you. Thanks, pal.
Bye.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Here we go. Everybody gets to hear me read 2 ads.
Hold on one second. Let me just pin you.
Squarespace and Notion.
That's it.
Okay. I love those both. You ready? Still recording, right?
QuickTime still going for you?
Yeah, my QuickTime is still
great.
Going.
You're good to go.
Where is it? There it is, still going. Okay, here we go. Hour and 45. Wow. 3, 2. Listen, Squarespace is the platform where you can build or sell anything. You all know it. I've talked about it forever here on the show. We love it at launch. We use it for all of our websites, including remotedemoday.com. You can see how gorgeous those websites are. But here are some Squarespace features that I know founders who listen to This Week in Startups are going to love. E-commerce, right? Obviously, Squarespace was known as building these beautiful templates that worked really well on mobile or iPads and being super affordable. But they have added some great e-commerce features in the past couple of years, including inventory management APIs, advanced analytics, SEO, all that important stuff. And they now have member areas. This is so you can sell digital goods, right? Maybe you want to sell piano tutorials, maybe cooking classes, whatever it is. You want to make your own version to sell your own master class, right? You have some master class you want to do on angel investing. I could put that up on Squarespace and sell it there. And if you build it yourself on Squarespace, you don't have to give 15 or 30% to other platforms. Think about that. If you've got one of these great courses and you put it on one of these sites, they take 30%, they take 40%, whatever it is. Imagine not having to give them that cut. Just move it over to Squarespace. That's what you should do. All right, listen. I want you to do something very simple for me right now. Go to squarespace.com/twist to start a free trial. Squarespace.com/twist. Use the offer code TWIST, TWIST, and you'll save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And go ahead right now. You're listening live. You're listening to the pod. Say thank you at Squarespace for sponsoring This Week in Startups. It really does help when you tell the partners how much you love them and go use that code so they know we sent you. All right. 3, 2. Listen, if you're in a remote startup, you need to sign up for Notion, point blank. We use it every day. We love it. My teams use it as our central hub for everything. We run the whole company off of it. We have some amazing internal tools. We built a database inside of Notion of all the startups that we interact with. It's basically our deal flow CRM. We were going to buy a third-party CRM company. We looked at all the CRMs, and then we realized the answer was right in front of us, Notion. I was literally going to spend maybe 100, 200K on custom software. And then I looked at all the other CRM software out there. For our team size, it would have cost probably $300 per person. It would have cost us $6,000, $7,000 a year over the next 10 years. It would have cost us $100,000. Plus, we'd have to learn a new SaaS product. Nope. We just use Notion. We're already paying for it. It's super affordable. So it's way beyond just a wiki. Notion is not just like a wiki. It has all of these database functions that I wasn't even aware of. And my team keeps surprising me with better and better features. One of them is you can just mention somebody, or you can remind yourself and set a reminder in the document. So if I'm writing notes on a startup that I met with, I can say, hey, tell me to reach out to the startup again on this date in 6 months, whatever. And everybody has learned how to use it on our team right now. And so when people give their end of the day report, hey, here's what I got done, they link to their Notion pages. And if somebody has a proposal, I say, okay, make a Notion page, write your proposal. Right first culture changes everything in startups. Why? Because then it's not about how you perform on some web conference. It's about writing your ideas concisely on a piece of paper. And then I tell everybody, hey, use Grammarly, another great partner of our podcast here. And the Notion Grammarly combination works beautifully, by the way. They have 500 apps integrated into Notion today. That's incredible. And it includes Google and Slack. Hundreds of thousands of teams worldwide are already using Notion. Another little thing I have, anytime anybody makes an edit to a company in our company database, it gets sent to a Slack channel that we have called the database. And I can look at that and I can see all my associates, my researchers, my principals, and my managing directors. And I can see, hey, who's doing work today? Who's putting notes in? It's really interesting. It's let me know like, hey, these people are really good note takers. And then I don't see this other group of people. And I'm like, very interesting. Maybe I need to talk to them about taking better notes in Notion. You can also see the history of everything you're doing. And more often, I'm seeing people use Notion to share their company updates. So a lot of companies now I'm on the board of are like, let me share this document with you, JCal. And they send me their plan in a Notion page and I edit it. I post comments on it. It's really just changed everything for our company, and it will change everything for your company. Notion.so and use the promo code TWIST to get $250 off their annual plan. Notion.so. And $250, that could be a couple of months free if you're growing your startup. Notion.so, use the promo code TWIST during checkout for $250 off. And if you want to send me your pitch in a Notion document, just add jason@calacanis.com to it, and I will go read your pitch. And who knows, maybe I'll call it out here on the pod. But that's a great way to get investors, is to just share a Notion page with them with your deal memo. All right, everybody. let's get back to the show. And thanks to Notion. You guys and gals over there, everybody at Notion is doing a great job.
Great. And then can you just go back to the news document for 1 second and just read an intro for Zack?
Sure.
It's right at the top.
3, 2. Okay, everybody, it's time for another Ask an Angel. Myself and Zack Coelius are going to answer your questions, both on the investor side of the table and the founder side of the table, everything in between. We talk about Prorata, we talk about the J curve, we talk about founders getting fired, getting screwed by downstream investors. When Zack's on the program, it's fast-paced and it's absolutely candid, insightful, important knowledge for founders and for investors. We keep it very real. It's 100 here. Stick with us.
Good intro.
Okay. High energy. Yeah. When it's a good app, I can riff it, I can just, I'm kind of getting to the point in my career where I can, just come out and I can improvise it, but good bullet points there, right? It's good for me to riff on it. Okay. Thanks everybody. I'll talk to you soon. I'll upload right now.
All right.